We are live on YouTube, and it is 6 o'clock. I'm just going to get my agenda here. Okay. Let's see. Wonderful. Let's see, Craig is here. We're going to call the meeting to order here at 6:01 p.m. We are broadcasting live from YouTube, and we have some folks who have called in, and I'm sure many more who are watching us on YouTube. So welcome to everyone to the regular Board of Selectmen's meeting. We have quite a few things on the agenda tonight. In attendance is myself, Mike Ergo, Selectwoman Kincaid, Selectman Carlson. So the first item on the agenda, number one, is the grants update. And I think I mentioned at the last meeting that, through the process of kind of relooking at the grants administrative assistant position that we had put out there, we had decided to separate those two into separate positions because we wanted some more just more experience on the grant side and really a focus on that, given the fact that we just need to get more grants with the continued reductions from the state and opportunities that are out there. So really happy to introduce Craig Russell, who's with us tonight. As I said, he'd join us tonight to talk a little bit about what he's up to. And then we actually have a grant resolution on something we're going to move forward, which is agenda item number 2. Craig, welcome, and glad to have you here, and maybe just talk a little bit about yourself, what you're doing, and introduce yourself to my fellow selectmen.
Thank you, and thank you for having me tonight. My name is Craig Russell. I was just recently hired as a grant writer for the town on a part-time basis. On a regular basis, I work for the state of Connecticut in construction services. Have been meeting with Christine and Juliet and Mike over the last 4 weeks, trying to put together priorities for the town, what we're looking to do as far as raising funds for the town. And I'd just like to go over that with you a little bit, what the priorities are, and where I found some opportunities and where we're at in that process. So one of the first things that was brought to my attention was emergency services. We're seeking funding for emergency service equipment, vehicles, and per diem staffing. And in doing my search in that area, basically what I found was for the most part, it's federal grants that are available for that, for FEMA. And those are pretty much run through the state government and then through the emergency management director. So I did reach out to Gary Barron and offered my services to him. I know that there's nothing available in that area right now for the basic grants that they do, but he said that he would get back to me at some point in the future when those are available. The next area we were looking at was community facilities, and in particular the animal shelter, the potential for that. So I did reach out to Kasha to find out, what exactly was provided at the animal shelter, and she gave me a breakdown of the services provided, and did a little bit of research on the parcel identified for the potential animal shelter at 163 Winnechaug Road, and got a copy of the conceptual plan for that. So what I've been looking for is the possibility of doing a feasibility study on that property, so that we could assess the status of on-site utilities, the well and septic, assess the site and site work needed to construct a facility, and how we could make the conceptual plan into detailed construction documents. I found a couple of options out there for this in the foundation world. One is from the Bethlehem Foundation. I did make an inquiry with them. They weren't totally sold on the idea of a study, but they said there's a few people that are on the board, and it is something that they might consider. So I am going to look a little further into that one. And I had also reached out to the Community Foundation of Eastern Connecticut. They had said that they don't fund feasibility studies. They may help with construction or something along that lines, but not feasibility studies. So I will be looking further into the Bethlehem Foundation one and trying to see if we can get some resources for that. The next area was the community infrastructure, the sewer systems tie-in project. Two parts to that is, the frontage road in Pendleton Hill, the phase 1, and then the Norwich Westerly Road, Providence, New London Turnpike, phase 2. Right now, working close with Juliet on that, and the main thing we're waiting for is for the facilities plan to be finalized. It's been drafted, and I know Juliet's been doing some back and forth with Weston and Sampson on that. So once that's complete, we'll be able to move forward on the EDA grant. It's a Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance grant for both of those, hopefully, going forward. Next thing we wanted to look into was commercial, the Eastern Industrial District, those two districts, and trying to get a feasibility study to identify key considerations and planning principles that would inform future decision-making off of the Exit 92 interchange area. I did find one foundation that I think may be a good fit for that, and that's the Chelsea Groton Foundation. I did do an email inquiry to them on April 24th. I haven't heard back yet, so news will come in the future on that one. Next area we were looking at was open space recreation, in particular the treatment of the area lakes, Billings, Blue, and Wyatt Lakes. I did reach out this evening. I just got the names last week of the associations and the presidents of the association. So I reached out to them to get a breakdown of what the scope of work is for those lakes, among some other general questions that I would have for trying to seek out a possible grant. And I was working on it just before I got online with you guys, and we'll hopefully finish it tonight. I just wanted to reach back out to the Community Foundation because they also support environmental projects, and this seems like it might be right in their wheelhouse. So there will be more to come on that. Affordable housing, as Mike had mentioned, I did put the application together for the housing plan, so that could be completed. And so the resolution's before you tonight on that. And then once the plan's finished, then we can start to look for funding for some affordable housing resources. And then the next one was historic preservation, the John Dean Gallup House. Been trying to get some information on that. I was looking, there is a funding source, the survey and planning grant that's put out by SHPO that can be used for a feasibility study or adaptive reuse study. Thought that the first thing that would need to be done before you could do any rehab on that particular project would be to do a feasibility study. So there is a grant that's available. In order to get that, it does require a dollar for dollar match. Funding's reimbursable, so it needs to be paid for upfront, and then they reimburse it, but you get approved beforehand, and then you'd know down the line what that is. And then they also have historic preservation grant funds that can be used for the actual construction of the project. And there's another federal program, the Paul Brune Historic Revitalization Grants Program, which also could provide funding for construction costs related to the project once feasibility study is done. And that is what I got on my list of priorities.
Great. Thank you for the update. You know, as everyone's hearing, these are a lot of things we've been talking about, and you know, to try to find some funding opportunities for the potential of some of these projects is exciting for the town. So, with that, I'll open up the questions or comments from the selectmen. If you have.
Craig, hi, I'm Nita Kincaid. We haven't met yet. I did get an email about a week and a half ago, and I was kind of running around, particularly with the Hewitt Farm and the work you're talking about. I'm wondering why you're looking for building information, though.
In order to put in for a grant, I just need some background information on the property. So anything that may be made available on, you know, the history of the building, the layout, anything that's available, I like to get my hands on just so I can glean the information. They do request, as part of even the survey and planning grant, like a 5-page breakdown of the property and things of that nature.
Okay, I do have considerable written material, and it would be, I can try and put it together. And I don't know if you've also had I think I saw somewhere that you'd had an opportunity to talk to Dick Seeger. Did you speak with him?
Yeah, I did have a brief conversation with him, and I had also sent him an email with the request. And he had said that there have been a lot of ongoing discussions, and said he would try and see if he could find some information for me.
Yeah, there really is quite a bit of information available. And so I'll go pouring through the folders and stuff, and then get back to you by looking back at what you had sent to me. It's just been kind of a busy couple of weeks, but
Yep, that'd be fine. That's very understandable. Thank you.
you're welcome.
I think part of that is that house anyway is, you know, some of the ideas we talked about, you know, the potential of having restrooms there, in the carriage house. You know, those are the types of projects that, you know, we may want to kind of consider as we look forward to the future of the property. And we've already kind of invested some money in it, which is exciting, to see, you know, us kind of really taking care of this asset of the town.
Because if I can interrupt for a second, I think, Craig, if you were willing, I think there are some historical groups like Historic New England that might help us also, because they own very, very many special historic, and they own only one in Connecticut, but a lot in Massachusetts, et cetera, and they might be helpful to us if we can find the right person.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Greg. My name is Bob Carlson. I'm the other selectman. I don't get to town hall much, but nobody does these days. Anyway, welcome aboard. It looks like you have a full agenda. I wrote down all the projects that you're working on and look forward to updates as you attend meetings in the future. So good luck and welcome aboard. And if you need any help from me, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
I think we talked about, you know, Craig will probably check in with us maybe quarterly or something like that, or if there's a reason to have him come in, you know, he'll, you know, more than willing to do that. With that, I don't know, I'd like to move on to, there's 2 other agenda items, and probably good if Craig and Juliet hang out for those 2 at least. So the second one is the Housing for Economic Growth Program grant resolution. So you had gotten something in your packet, and then a follow-up email today, which I'm assuming you both saw, just to make sure that we approved it in the correct manner.
Juliet, right?
Yeah, Juliet sent that email this afternoon to make sure it was approved in the correct manner, because I think it was sent a little bit differently in the original packet. So Juliet, do you want to talk a little bit about what it is we are looking at here, and give a little background on it before we move it forward?
Yep. So just apologies for not double checking the statute reference on that. I was searching for the right resolution form and assumed that my Google search was correct, but I didn't double check the statute. But so it's not the economic growth program, housing for economic growth program. It is the technical assistance grant for creating a housing plan. And just for the record, in 2017, there was a new law passed that says towns have to update their plans every 5 years. And I think we have until 2021 to finish it. But you have to create these housing plans in order to qualify for future funding. So the Affordable Housing Commission had wanted to reapply for that housing rehab grant because it doesn't increase our numbers of affordable housing, but it does serve a certain segment of the community that can't afford to do certain repairs to their house. And now more than ever, I guess that would be particularly important. So the faster we get the plan done, the better. I've done most of it, but I have asked to apply for just $4,500 to finish it, to have the Council of Governments help me finish it and to pay for the printing. And, we can also ask for administrative costs, but there really won't be any. It just needed the data updated. So that's why we're going for this grant. It's small, but it'll get it done, and then it'll open up the door for future funding for housing projects. So just make sure when you read it that you read that new language that cites the right program.
I have it in front of me, and I'll, if the selectmen have any questions before I read it, certainly can ask. Hearing none, I'll read the resolution for consideration, certified resolution. The legislative body of the town of North Stonington met on April 28th, 2020 and adopted a resolution by the vote of, which we'll vote, authorizing the submission of the grant application under the Affordable Housing Technical Assistance Program to prepare an affordable housing plan under provisions of Section 8-30J of Connecticut General Statutes. And number 2, identifies Juliet Hodge as an individual authorized to sign the grant application and administer the grant. Such grant application is attached to and made part of this record.
And I also just want to clarify that I know you just read the legislative body, which is typically a town meeting for this town, but in this particular grant, it authorizes the Board of Selectmen specifically to be able to sign this resolution.
So do I have a motion to approve the resolution just read?
I move that we approve the appropriation that we just read.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0-0. Okay. Next on the agenda is the RFP for the rental of the John Dean Gallup House. We had previously been referring to as the 1750s house for those listening or attending on YouTube. And this is the house over at Hewitt Farm. So just a little bit of history. Back last year, we found that the house needed a fair amount of repairs. It had been occupied by a tenant for a number of years. We moved to not renew the lease with the tenant, so that way we could make the necessary repairs to the house. Those repairs are nearly done, and they're mainly was painting, peeling paint, and just it's a very important historic property to the town of North Stonington. And we are eager to get it rented again with the appropriate person or entity in there. And so what we would look to do is put an RFP out there asking for proposals from potential individuals or entities who would like to propose a occupancy of the property, and exactly what they would look to do in there, and also propose to us a rental fee that they would pay. And we're hoping to get a number of proposals, so we want to put this out there as soon as we can, so we can get that revenue stream back going for the town, but also to get the property occupied, because an unoccupied building is never a good thing. Very happy about the work that's been completed, and the RFP is before the selectmen. this evening for consideration with some dates and some edits from last time we talked about our last meeting. So I open it up for discussion with the selectmen on the RFP that you had in your packet. Nita, do you want to start off?
Basically, I'm aware of everything that was in here, some of which I did, some of which Christine did, some of which you did, I think, too. I'm fine with it. I'm a little hanging on the edge, and I know you want to go forward. Whether Wednesday, May 13th, I think it should be okay, because today that would give us 2 more weeks of doing a little bit more than we've done right now, but we're not planning on taking these people into the building. So there are a few things in here. I know there was something in here particularly about taking pictures and measurements and so forth, so the person could have a good perspective of what this is. Did you know who was going to take those pictures and things, Mike?
Yeah, well, Christine's raising her hand, so maybe she wants to do it.
It's not that I want to. I think we can have Daryl go in and do the measurements very easily with what he uses for his assessment piece. He has that electric thing. So if Mike is willing to do the pictures and the video, then we can send Daryl to take care of the measurements, and then we'll have all the pieces.
That is very good. Okay, just so that everyone who's listening knows, the painting did actually finish today. And the only thing that is left this week is they had a great deal of equipment and so forth in there. They actually thought this would be done 2 weeks ago, but I think if you've been in there, you know that it was more than that, the number of weeks they gave us. Fortunately, it was a set number for the painting. So we have a really, I think, good job. And I would like to take each of you at some point soon in to see it. But what I would like to do first is to get the disgusting bathrooms, excuse me for saying it, but straightened out. And then we would be in really good shape, I think. They're going to come back later this week, pick everything up. But I was with the 2 people, the manager of the whole project and the one who did the most work this afternoon. And it really is a good job. So I hope you all will agree. I pray you all will agree. Anyway, so Mike, I think taking the pictures next week would be possibly good, because why would we include the bathrooms anyway?
Right. You can strategically take pictures so that you don't see the toilet and the things that need to be changed out. And we
Yes.
can do a full listing of how many rooms and bathrooms and all that, and include the property card.
Yes, absolutely. So where should I go from there with it?
Bob, do you have any comments on the RFP?
We just need, not so much an RFP, but on the project itself. So Nita, are those things going to be replaced prior to someone taking residence there?
Or
Is that
what?
the plan?
Yes, you mean the bathrooms straightened out?
Yes.
Yes, I'm hoping to get them done within 2 weeks. I've
So
already spoken to the plumber that many of us use, and he's already familiar with that house. So he knows what the problems are with the water and the the bathrooms. And so I think, I think he will try hard to get it done in time. And besides, it doesn't need to be in the pictures.
I'm not going to be on the committee, as we talked about, to do
Yeah.
the interviewing of the candidates, but when did you hope that would take place?
The RFP is asking for proposals by June 1st.
I saw that. Yep.
So I think once we have proposals, we would look to hopefully start, discussions with anyone who's of interest within, a week or so after that. I would love to say.
So is it conceivable that July 1st, somebody could be in there? A tenant could be in there by July 1st?
Yes, I think it's possible.
Mhm.
I think it's possible.
I mean, that would be great. I mean, that's half the year, so.
But I think that, I think all of us agree that we want to make sure it is the right person, because we don't want to have a problem, and therefore we also have to be very careful about how the lease is written and all of that sort of thing. But you can't, we can't really do anything until we see what kind of people we see and whether it's people or an organization, as you've mentioned. And then you notice we put into the request that the barn could be separate from it too. So, which refers back to what Mike has mentioned quite a few times, and I'm not opposed to it either. It could be used for bathrooms and events and displays and things like that. It would depend on the person that wants this and what they want to do with it and what we're comfortable having them do, I think.
And we definitely would want to make sure, through the process, there could be land use approvals and different approvals that that may have to happen depending on, what's proposed.
Don't you shove that.
Yeah,
That's all I said.
yeah. Didn't sound
Well,
like
it's one
that
thing.
word you were gonna say.
Sorry, somebody became unmuted. That's okay. So yeah, I think I guess, is there any other questions or modifications to the RFP that?
I just have another question about the project again. So obviously there was a CO on this before because there was a family living there. And we know that the building has grandfathered rights as far as some of the codes because it's an old building. It doesn't have to perform unless you're pulling out the stairs completely. You don't have to put a new set of stairs with code. Same thing with the windows. So there's nothing that would keep a new resident from moving in as far as a CO. Has the building inspector seen it? Does he have to see it? Does he have to inspect it?
It's not about I don't think the issue is with the building inspector like if a resident were to move in there, it's a house, and you're right, Bob. I don't think I'm saying anything out of turn here. It's that if we were to have an entity, which is something I would love to see, where you have some sort of, whether it's an organization or a business, or not that we're going to have a chamber of commerce, but, a museum or things like that, that could, depend on the zoning. So I think there's some other things that may have to be discussed as we get a proposal, with Juliet, potentially the building official, if there were something like that. But there's nothing on the buildings. There's nothing with the house to prevent me from moving in there. If that were to be.
I think it would be helpful, even if, Bob, you were not, going to be on the committee, and also Christine too, for all of us, including Mike, to say what we really want to be sure of about the house, because to me, that would, I think that all of us tried to put in the emphasis on the history of the house and so forth, which we should, if with Craig's help, maybe turn it into something that we can even, put together before we are even finished with the whole thing. But the person has to be interested in the history and in the property. And we just have to be very careful about that. And for example, a lot of things when you advertise a house, as all of you know, is, you might get a nice young couple. But if they have a dog and they have children, etc., it really should be tough.
Well, I mean, legally, you can't discriminate.
I know.
So I think we're being pretty clear in the proposal. People can go ahead and we've made it so we're going to make, we have the opportunity to reject any bids that we don't like, and that are not in the best interest of the town. And so
I know, that was good.
that's what we'll do.
In other words, the looking for these people could take a little bit longer than we think, depending on how far we can reach out.
Well, we'll get it advertised. We'll get the word out there. We'll share it. And
yeah, I know.
Questions on it? No.
No.
Okay. So with that, entertain a motion to approve the RFP as presented to advertise for the rental or the proposals for rental and upkeep of the John Dean Gallup House.
I think somebody other than me should say it.
It's 6:30.
So I would say that I motion for an approval as stated by the first selectman.
I second it.
All right, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries 300. Agenda item number 4, Hewitt Farm Hayfield agreement renewal. Nita, do you want to, you have obviously experience on this one.
Sure.
And by the way, Nita, sorry, before I go back, thank you for all your work again on the project over there. You did a great job overseeing it and making sure that, you know, that they did a good job with it. So thank you for that.
Right. Okay, thank you. So the Hewitt Farm Hayfield Agreement, I think most of you are kind of aware of this. I touched on it, I think, once at a meeting. This is not unusual. This would be it'd be the second amendment, but there actually are 3 amendments because one earlier on was treated as amendment, but it was still within the material that was in the original agreement that was written, which I think I wrote in 2012. But Ron Lewis and Mike Daniels have done, for those of you who haven't seen it, have done a wonderful job on those fields. They were absolutely a disaster in the second half of the 2006 to 2012 time. They were just a terrible mess, and they needed a lot of work. We had 3 people want to go there, and Ron and Mike put in by far the best information of what they were going to do. And they've lived up to every bit of it and gone ahead. And so they did, so I have to praise them because it was, you know, they really have worked very hard. And so they did come back to us when they were spending quite a bit of money on the fields and say, given that we are, and it takes a couple of years for fields to move on and become really strong, can we take it? I think it was 3 more years at that point in time from what we had originally. And now they've come back because they are also wanting to do, as you could see on what's in the amendment, quite a bit more work in the upcoming years. They have had 2, not their fault at all, 2 years where the hay has not been great. So that's why they want to put in even more work, but the hay has not been great for a lot of the farmers because of the kind of weather we've had and so forth, the dryness and then the wetness and the wrong time in the year, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, I put this together with what also Ron said in the letter. Did we put the letter in here that he sent, Christine?
I don't think so.
Okay.
There? No.
No, okay, well, the letter it basically says what's in this, what I put into this too, about what they're gonna do. So that's the force of it. And so I think I would like to suggest that we sign this and give them till 2026. They're working very well on it. We've never had a problem with them. Anytime you would say anything, when they were having any problems with their equipment and they had to leave the hay for a little bit, you know, like 3 weeks or something, they would come and get it out of the way. Whereas the previous person would leave hay all year long, hay bales all year long on the farm. So anyway, if anybody has questions or thinks this is not a good idea, let's talk.
Bob, do you have any comments or questions on it?
No, I've only heard good things about the agreement as we've had it before. And I think I was at one of the meetings, I can't see, I don't know whose meeting it was, when it was conservation, when Ron Lewis was there explaining it to us. If Nita's happy, I'm happy because she knows, I mean, she lives this stuff day in and day out. So yeah, I'm fine with renewing the contract through 2026.
Thank you. Okay.
I think one thing you do see from, especially from Ron, is a great investment in the community, you know, and really pride in a lot of the buildings that, you know, we see around town. And I think that's been demonstrated also by the hayfields. So I can support the extension and remain thankful that they're willing to do it. And I think it's a win-win situation. So I appreciate the work the Hewitt Farm Committee and you put into this, Nita.
Thank you.
So I'd put a motion on the table to accept the Hewitt Farm Hayfield Agreement Amendment as presented.
Moved.
So moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Thank you.
carries 300.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next up, the COVID-19 update. So I've just been keeping this on the agenda because obviously it's really kind of consuming the world right now. And, you know, as far as from a North Stonington perspective, if anyone was able to attend last night, I had a nice meeting where Senator Heather Summers, Representative Rotella, myself, Select Woman Danielle Cheesebro, and Director of Health Steve Mansfield attended, and we kind of had a nice conversation with the community. Just gave some updates on a bunch of different things. But the long and the short of it is, you know, we're certainly not out of the woods. You know, as I think since we last met, I guess the biggest thing is the mask protocol now. If people are going to be in public places where they can't have separation or separation isn't guaranteed, then they should be wearing masks. It's a requirement for that to happen. So, you know, so we're adhering to that, you know, in town hall, you know, for anyone who, if we're having anyone come in or if anyone's going to be in closer proximity, the staff has been directed to wear masks, as well as at the transfer station. Certainly there's a lot of, you know, folks that are coming there, probably more so than ever now. So that's also been put in as a requirement. Our numbers continue to be lower here in North Stonington, though, you know, they do continue to grow slowly, and we hope that continues to be the case. We've, you know, I think being rural, and I hope taking the protocols we did very early on maybe have helped us a little bit. But even in Eastern Connecticut, you know, we're doing better than other places. But, you know, we are seeing more hospitalizations now, you know, especially with the nursing homes. Everybody's seeing that, and, you know, we don't have that here, but you can see Waterford's numbers, and that's part of the reason why. So, you know, I just encourage everybody to continue as best as they can to respect the stay safe, stay home. I know there's people working that are in, you know, essential jobs, and that you can't, you know, that has to, of course, you know, people have to work, but wear the masks. Just encourage people to wear masks, you know, please. People can be asymptomatic and then come in contact with somebody else that just can die from this. I mean, it's really scary. And I just don't want anyone to let that fear out of them, because you wouldn't want to infect somebody unknowingly that you care about. And that's kind of what we're up against here. So we'll continue to, you know, observe all the same protocols we have, you know, listen to the governor's orders, and just hope that this thing clears up sooner than later. Any questions on anything related to COVID-19?
Mike, I think you wanted to give an update about economic development and the businesses.
Oh, the signage thing, is that what? Yes. Okay. So that did come up. They did extend so businesses we're not going to enforce certain regulations as it relates to signage. Thank you, Christine, for reminding me. And thanks to the Economic Development Commission and Planning and Zoning and Juliet for moving that forward to just try to help any of the essential businesses get the word out a little bit more that they're open if they need to. You know, obviously it looks like some things are closed because there's just less traffic in certain areas. So if we could do something to try to help them be noticed a little bit more, we want to try to do that. So that was advertised, and basically it wasn't any action required. It was just, we've told the public and the businesses that we're not going to enforce additional signage up to a certain amount. And so they have that opportunity to put additional signage out right now through, I think it's May 22nd or something like that. So that's happening right now. And of course, we'll look at that when the time comes to see where things are at, if that's something they want to extend out or not. And also as far as the businesses, there is a lot of help out there for businesses, and we've tried to compile resources on the town website as it relates to just the COVID-19 resources that have become available, whether it's to the state, the federal government, or whatever. So that's out there. And then we did also, economic development also is running some ads for businesses that are open, Facebook ads. So it's a small, really a small cost for us to try to do a little bit extra for the town to support the businesses that are continuing to try to be open. And so those Facebook ads, I know on the restaurant side have gone out there. So so we're trying to do, I think everybody's trying to pull together and do what we can to support our community. And I guess that's the short of it on the COVID-19. Next up, agenda item number 6, North Stonington Volunteer Fire Company budget balance FY20. You have a letter in your packet that was submitted to us to request the permission to transfer within their own funds some monies in order to cover some shortfalls. So the Board of Trustees, I'll just write the letter I'll read the letter for the benefit of everyone. In light of the ongoing meetings, restrictions and delays and difficulties it creates, the fire company's Board of Trustees has begun its closeout process of the 2019-2020 budget. During discussions, they authorized the fire chief to contact the Board of Selectmen regarding transfers within the fixed and capital line sections. The following is proposed. Fixed charges, transfer surplus funds from the length of service awards program, LOSAP line, 328212, so $3,282.12, to cover the shortfall in the insurance coverage line, $2,389.72. This would leave an $892.40 remaining in the LOSAP line. Capital charges, transfer the remaining $892.40 from the LOSAP line to cover part of the turnout gear overage, $1,232.14, would leave a remainder of $339.74, which could be taken from the SCBA cylinder replacements line, leaving $218.98 in that line. Please advise if this would be acceptable and what our next step, if any, is needed so that the board company can move forward. So I did advise the chief that I would get this to the Board of Selectmen for just for an approval. And I appreciate the fire company coming forward with these requests to us. And these are all necessary expenditures, and it seems to make sense, but do the selectmen have any questions on this request?
Mike, I just think I'm usually not in favor of line item transfers, but in this particular case, when it comes out of the same budget, similar to the Board of Education budget, when there's a transfer within a budget, I feel like they know how they need to use the money. The money's been put there by the taxpayer. So I have no problem with these requests by the chief.
Nita, do you have any comments or questions?
No, I read through it. No, I don't have any questions.
It probably can't hurt to have a motion to approve the request as submitted by the fire chief and as read by the first selectman. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0-0. Next up is number 7, budget FY 2020-2021 budget discussions. So as we are closing in on hopefully getting to a public hearing, we were all in attendance at the last Board of Finance meeting, so I don't need to reiterate the directive from the Board of Finance and looking back at our budget. And I think you heard my comments, and of course I prefaced them by saying I needed to speak with you before, of course, any decisions are made always. And you know, at least the major directive was to pull out the monies that we had allocated for some additional paving in the Kingswood, Meadowwood, Cedar Ridge neighborhoods. As I indicated on the call, you know, some of that still will be taking place. This would just potentially, either we could look to go for an additional appropriation for some of that work later when we have a better picture of what's going on, or just continue to, we will continue to get some of it done with monies that we have, you know, especially if we have a good winter or whatever, we're going to be starting some of that this spring already, and with monies that we have from, you know, state revenues as well. So that was the major thing to look to pull out. And I didn't know if the selectmen want to discuss any other lines within the budget before we do send something back to Board of Finance. So, you know, not, I guess we could just kind of, why don't we have just a general discussion about things, and I know we can put together a number before, you know, the meeting's out. So we have a number to send to the Board of Finance for consideration at their meeting tomorrow night. So I guess we could just go through, maybe, if it's all right, I'll maybe just start with Bob. I could start with you if you want, and you could talk about anything as it relates to the budget or any other things you'd like to see done.
As we went through the budget, and we've gone through it a few times, obviously, and I'm happy with the budget we had come up with originally, although I do not disagree with what the Board of Finance is asking us to do, is to take the 108,000 on at this time. And whether we go for an appropriation or whether it just, everything gets moved back a year, that's yet to be seen, because we don't know what's going to happen with the economy. But as far as the budget this year, sitting through the Board of Finance meeting, the last few, I'm comfortable with making that adjustment. And that's all. That's the only adjustment I think we need to make at this point.
Nina, do you have any comments?
No, I feel similarly. Yes, leave it, do what they are asking at this point, I think, yes.
As it relates to the budget, so that would be a reduction in B2702 of 108,000 to our budget. Is there anything else that the board wanted to discuss as it relates to our proposal to a recommendation to the Board of Finance at their meeting tomorrow night?
Well, I think the only two things that have remained issues that I think everybody doesn't all feel that comfortable about are the firemen, the two full-time firemen, and the other is the lakes. Those two things, I don't know if how the group feels about leaving them alone or whatever.
Yeah, I'll answer that. So in my opinion, I've seen some of Mike's answers when it deals with the per diem firemen, and I've also sat through, as you have, the first two meetings. I think there's another one coming up tomorrow. So I think we have to let that board do what it needs to do. They've got probably another 4 or 5 months getting together and then to come up with their findings. So I'd hate to jump the gun and push something through now that we've already discussed about not putting in the budget this year. As far as the Lake Association, I've got a lot of the same letters that you and Mike received. I understand where they're coming from, but I also heard Craig tonight say that he's reaching out to them and looking at grants and try to find out what, kind of find out what it is that they need, and maybe that we can take some of the money from grants to do what they need to do, at least for this year's budget. So
Yeah.
I would like to know if, I would like to know if the town garage has been able to come back to Christine at all with any savings through a lack of snow plowing and things like that, and if there's any way that will change their budget number for next year.
So what happens this year doesn't necessarily impact what's going to happen next year for plowing. We will have some savings in overtime for this winter because it really wasn't that bad. We have had to call them in a couple times for storms because of the wind that we've been having. So we have had overtime this spring for a couple of those storms. But we will, like I said, we will have some savings there. But you can't look at this winter to project what next winter is going to be. So we still need to put the money in for next year because we could have 10 times as many snowstorms. You really never know.
Well, I heard Mike make the statement about the roads and how we may have some savings and we can do some work on the roads, but that would be a line item adjustment going from one line to another. If it's in for snow plowing, I don't know how we can use that same money to use for the roads in Kingswood and Cedar Ridge. So I just want you to clear that up a little bit for me.
So Donnie has made his plan, his tentative plan for what we're going to be doing this spring with the roads, using that additional appropriation that we asked for the LoCIP money that we have in the LoCIP bank with the state, and then using the money that we have. We did, because it was a mild winter, we bought less salt and sand than we could have. So I think that's the savings that Mike's referring to. We are completely stocked up and ready, so that may help us going into next year as well. But some of that money that would be used for salt and sand is in that same line item, that 2702. So that, I think that savings is what could potentially be used for the paving this year.
Okay.
So is there anything else for discussion, or we're gonna?
No.
Yes, go ahead.
Are we doing the same thing tomorrow night as we did last time, just being there, and they're just going to be talking with each other for the meeting?
Unless you have something else, I mean, you know, we were asked to make this reduction. We've made the reduction. I could give a short presentation of the budget. I'm happy to do that again if that's something they want. But I think we have presented it a number of times, so I'm not sure that that's the best use of everyone's time. And as far as the lakes, I mean, I think there's a possibility of some grant money. Also, 2 of the lakes haven't even taken their money yet for this year, so they do still have some money left for, you know, to do some stuff with. And I would also say that, you know, if there's an issue or we feel that there's a necessary expenditure for like the lakes or really anything, we can we can ask for an additional appropriation. So I wouldn't count that out if that's the direction we want to go. I mean, I think we talked about the fact that this budget that we had already put together wasn't really a super proactive, planful budget. It's not, and it wasn't even before COVID. It was more trying to be sensitive to the taxpayer. And, you know, we've really, since we 3 have been together, we've basically not had increases in the general government budget. And this is going to be another year of almost really no increase. The only increase we're going to put forward is debt because of the school projects, which was approved by the voters. So I think it's a very conservative move. And I think that's what's being asked for. So
I'm fine with it.
if there's no other discussion, then we look for a motion, and I'll need a number. I don't know, Christine, if you have it.
Yes, I was not just playing on my phone. I was using the calculator.
I figured. So I'll make the motion. I'll state it, and we can look to move it to consideration or recommend it to the Board of Finance for their consideration. So make a motion that we move the general government budget in the amount of
$5,048,664.
To the Board of Finance for.
Oh, that's just the general government. Do you want all 3 together?
Oh, you can list them separately. That's okay.
Okay. So redemption of debt is $1,204,204, and capital is $329,175 for a total of $6,582,043.
So the motion is to move that budget to the Board of Finance, recommend that budget to the Board of Finance for consideration.
So moved.
Further discussion on it?
Wait, did someone second it?
I made the motion. Nita.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. You're muted, Bob. You're muted. Trying to talk, Bob?
Yeah, I was just saying I threw in a third.
Okay. All right. All right. So all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 300. Appointments, number 8 on the agenda. So the most pressing issue, which I've talked about in a couple of meetings and has now come to fruition, is that the town treasurer is moving and has submitted his resignation effective May 2nd. And so we do have 2 applications for a town treasurer, which I'm really thankful for. This is, as we all know, a crucially important job for the town. the two applicants, which you have the applications in your packet. One is from Mustafa Ratib, who is on the Board of Finance, as you all know, for 8 or so years, I think, maybe 10 years. Was in charge of really the budget, the software, the spreadsheet for many years. Has accounting experience, and you can see all that he has on here. And perhaps maybe I should read this a little bit so that way anyone listening, or because I only have two here, so I'll read his application. It just gives us information, his background information, which you might feel would be relevant to your application. My BS degree in business administration, accounting, and degree in computer science will be relevant to this application. I worked as a financial information manager at State Street Corporation in Boston, Mass. Besides, as a small business accounting specialist, I have my own company where I practice as a tax preparer and deal with bookkeeping and payroll services. Why are you interested in this board and commission, etc.? I am interested in this board because I look forward to providing more assistance to our town, thanks to my academic background and professional experience in the area of finance. Have you attended any meetings of the boards? Yes, I have. Please list all community organizations in which you are actively involved or hold membership. Board of Finance as a member, North Stonington Education Foundation as treasurer, keeping North Stonington affordable as financial advisor. Do you have any time constraints that would limit your participation and attendance on this board? Commission, to be discussed. Second application received from William Mason. Background information, which you might feel relevant to your application. I own and operate my own business, keeping my own financial records. I worked as an accounts manager for an ad agency. I was an accounting major in college. All right, why are you interested in this board commission? I ran for this position last election and lost by the narrow margin of 70 votes. I still desire to be involved in helping this town continue to move forward. Have you attended any meetings of the board commission? Not applicable. List all community organizations in which you are actively involved or hold membership, EDC and affordable housing. Do you have any time constraints that will limit your participation or attendance on this board? No. So we have two applicant consideration for this position of treasurer. So
Mike, I think this was mentioned once before when there was only one application. Would Mustafa have to remove himself from the Board of Finance? And if so, have you asked him at all?
I have talked to him and did mention to him that he should resign, would be asked to resign from the Board of Finance if he were to become the treasurer. So I'm not sure that there's clear direction on that, but that would be my, we would ask him to do that. He's prepared to do that. So so if you were to want to appoint Mustafa, we would appoint him effective May 3rd, and he would have to resign from the Board of Finance before that time.
Okay.
He would be asked to.
Yeah.
I think I think Mustafa is an excellent. I think they're both good candidates. On face value, I know Mustafa. I've seen him working with the Board of Finance. My only hesitation would be when as far as his time constraints. I know how when he's in the middle of tax season, it doesn't help as far as him getting to Board of Finance meetings, and he admits that he can't make all those meetings. So I think we just have to work something out if he is appointed as treasurer and how he can do his job during tax season. Does he come in early in the morning? You can do it on weekends. I know that with Mark being treasurer and in the past, that was a position that it was kind of flexible as far as getting the work done, as far as signing the checks and reviewing the things he has to do. So I don't think that would be the only thing that would keep me. That would be the only thing that would keep me from not approving Mustafa. I think he's an excellent candidate. I think he would make a fantastic treasurer. I like Will. I think he also could be a good treasurer, but I think that Mustafa just has too much more on his resume at this particular time to make him a more suitable candidate.
And I agree entirely with Bob, and we haven't discussed this at all, but I think Mustafa has expressed in past years that he would always be interested in something like that. I will tell you. And I think that But I do think, Mike, that there should be a conversation about the two things that Bob is mentioning. Not being on the board anymore, and also, what was the other thing that you said that was?
The
Oh,
time-
in
the time
general,
Time
time
constraints.
in general.
7
But
o'clock.
where he lives, I think he's, you know, really hard worker. And it would be something like this to be able to go like Mark was doing on the treasury things. As long as you fit it in, you could come into town hall at 10 o'clock at night and do your work, or, you know, anything like that, which sometimes has happened, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to work with the school on, you know, a lot of, it's not just the town stuff, but it's also the school stuff that he'll work with them on. So and actually Mustafa had run for treasurer too in the past.
Exactly, he has.
But yeah, I think
I
I'm
think
finding myself feeling pretty fortunate that we had two willing and really qualified applicants, because it's such an important job, and to not lose the continuity here, with Mark basically moving next week. So I know Mark is able to do a transition with the person starting on Thursday, which will be really helpful. So yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you guys are saying. Certainly I'll have more conversations with Mustafa, and I would agree with the qualifications for him as well. And certainly thankful for Will to put his name forward again, but I'd look for a motion to appoint Mustafa as treasurer for the town effective May 3rd.
A motion.
And second,
Further discussion on the appointment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 300. Second appointment that we have is, so we had an appointment come in for, we had an applicant come in about a month or so ago for the economic development position that was vacated by Tula, but for Jennifer Dayton, who's did attend the last EDC meeting, and I guess was well received, because the the full vacancy for a full member was vacated, and there was an alternate who was of the same party. That person was extended the opportunity to go from an alternate member to a full member. That person's Anthony Mazzella, who you received his application today to be a full member of EDC. And so with Anthony being a full member, wanting to be appointed as a full member, Jennifer would be considered and is willing to serve as a alternate member, which would round out the committee nicely. So there are two, and both fit the profiles of the party affiliation that need to be filled for that committee. So we have both Anthony Mazzella, again, who's already an elected member of that board, who would like to be moved up to a full member, and then Jennifer Dayton, who would like to be appointed as an alternate member of economic development.
Mike, I'm sure you know this anyway, but I have gone to most of the Board of Education, and Mazzella was not at any of them as an alternate.
EDC, you mean?
EDC. What did I say before? Yes.
The Board of Education.
Oh, yes.
But I know what you meant.
Yeah, sorry. So he has not been coming to meetings. I feel I have to say that because there has been discussion of it too.
Yeah, I know that was discussed with him by, I know Tula, who is the party chair for the Democrats, of which these are both members of that party. The only thing I can say to that is, I think he expressed interest in being more attentive to the meetings. And I also would say that if he's not there, at least now we have an alternate to fill the seat. So.
Okay, all right.
That's good news.
Yep.
All right, so I will comment. Like Nita, I've been to pretty much all the EDC meetings since the last election. And Anthony came to the first meeting. I don't think he was even sworn in at the first meeting. He got sworn in after that. But it didn't appear to me that he was engaged. And then he proved that in not coming to any meetings since then. When you're elected to a position, the towns put you in a place because they felt you could do the job, whether it be an alternate or a full seated member. As an alternate, you still have to go. You never know when there's going to be an empty seat. And EDC in past has had some trouble, not so much lately because I think they're really strong right now. But in past years, they always had trouble getting a quorum. So a lot of times you had to have an alternate seated. He was never there to be seated. Now we got an application from a woman who moved into town, maybe in October, November, I believe. She attended the last meeting. She seems to have a tremendous resume. I mean, she sent a 3-page resume for a seat on the EDC. I think she's anxious to be involved in town. From what I can see in her past, she's done a lot of things already and be an asset to the town. I know what you're saying, Mike, about Anthony being a full-time person, and then if he doesn't show up, then Ms. Dayton can take over that spot. But I don't want to reward someone who has not come to any meetings and has not done what the voters had put him in place to do, which is to go to meetings. So I feel giving him a full role as an EDC member at this point would be wrong. And I would totally vote in favor of seating Mrs. Dayton over Mr. Marzella.
I don't have a problem with what either of you guys are saying. I know you've been both going to most of the meetings. I've been to some. And from what I understand, Jen was really an engaged member. And again, her resume is pretty incredible. And when I see anyone put their name forward to be on a committee, I'm always literally so thankful, especially when there's people who have such great qualifications. So, I mean, if you want to make, there would be no problem appointing her to the full role and Anthony in the part-time, the alternate role. And Anthony's a pretty laid back guy. So, I mean, I'm sure that he'd be okay with that. He was willing to run for it before. So if that's your interest, then I'd entertain a motion to appoint Jennifer as the full member of EDC. And that would be the only motion we need to make.
So I motion to appoint Jennifer Dayton as the full member of the EDC.
And I say yes also.
All right, motion and a second, further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0-0. Appoint tax refunds, number 9. So we have 7 tax refunds. I'll just read them off. Todd Kreisowitz, $10.38. Total Lease Trust, $413.54. MK Trust, $1,666. MK Trust, $1,629.26. MK Trust, $2,240.13. MK Trust, $1,604.66. MK Trust, $1,212.06. Total, $8,776.03. Do I have a motion to approve the tax refunds as presented?
So approved. So
I'll second with discussion.
Further discussion?
Mike, MK in trust, that looks like it's all different pieces of property, obviously, right? So is that, and maybe you can't say this, but what is that?
They're all leases. It's all cars. It's all motor vehicle. So it's all for leases. I can get the specifics from Karen, but I think it was because they've called a couple times to check in. So I don't know if it's that the leases ended on those vehicles. I can get specifics for you if you'd like, but it's all motor vehicle. None of it's real estate.
No, that explains. It's probably leases that ended that they were still being taxed even though the lease had ended, and now he's coming back to rectify that. I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Oh,
Aye.
Aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nita. Sorry.
all right. I'm sorry. We didn't have any minutes this time.
No, I forgot to put them on the agenda. I will make sure they are on your next one.
Oh, okay, all right, sorry.
That's all me.
Sorry. Okay, yes, sorry, Bob, sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Number 10, public comment. If you are on the phone, the way to make a public comment, if you have one, is by pressing *6. And we'll try to manage it as best we can. There's not that many people that are on the call. If you have a public comment, you could press *6. And if not, that's okay too.
It's Madeline Jeffrey, just calling in to say a great meeting. And it's much nicer being at home, listening to all of you work things out. Thank you.
Thanks for attending, Madeline. It's good to hear your voice.
This is Jennifer Dayton, and I just want to express my deep gratitude to the Board of Selectmen for your nomination and your trust and faith in me. So I look forward to serving on economic development and to having many conversations with you in the future.
Jennifer, it's nice that you're here. I didn't realize you were on the call, and welcome aboard. We're really thrilled and honored that you would consider serving. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hearing,
Mustafa Ratib.
yes.
Guys, it was a great meeting. Well, I just want to call to say thank you for your trust on me and all the work that I heard from you. Really, it's very nice to hear, people, acknowledging some things that we do for this town. And as I said, to be discussed, I'm going to meet with Mike. We'll talk about the details. And yes, I'm aware of the Board of Finance situation. I understand that, either or. I mean, if I have to take this position, I have to step down from the Board of Finance. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mustafa.
Mustafa, it's wonderful that you're on the call, and thank you for being willing to serve. And certainly do attend the Board of Finance meeting tomorrow night. They'll probably need you still, but after that, yes, we'll, and I'll connect you with Mark and you guys can transition.
It's Juliet. I
Sure,
just wanted
thank
to
you.
say welcome to Jennifer as well, and that I'll touch base with her to get her caught up on, some of the old plans and get her contact info. But welcome aboard.
Thank you, Juliet. Okay. Hearing no other public comment, I would like to thank everyone who's both watched and attended the meeting online. And with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded by Bob. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Good night.